So you're interested in Western mysticism. Today we're diving deep into the Kabbalah.
Specifically, as Dion Fortune saw it, right, in Mystical Qabala.
Exactly. It's amazing there's so many paths to, spiritual growth and all that, but
Yeah.
this is like getting a map and a compass for a journey.
Not a physical one, though, an inner one, you know?
Exactly. It's like it's not about leaving your life behind to become some kind of a mystic on a mountain.
Oh, absolutely not. It's about taking this ancient wisdom, right,
Yes.
and actually integrating it
Yes.
into our modern, everyday experience.
It's a toolkit, a guide, really, all rolled into one. So what is it about the Kabbalah that makes it so, well-suited for us living in this, modern Western world?
Well, it's interesting because unlike traditional science, which is all about observation, right, building from there, Kabbalah is different. You start with these profound truths that have already been revealed, almost like you're looking into this cosmic mirror, reflecting, this universal wisdom.
I like that. A cosmic mirror.
Yeah.
And that's where the tree of life comes in, right?
Exactly. That's the framework, the structure for all this wisdom. You need something to help you understand these, well, they are kind of complex, mystical concepts. It's a map, really, a map of existence itself.
Okay, I like that.
But you know how you can't stare directly at the sun? It would be too overwhelming.
Right, yeah.
It's the same thing here. The Kabbalah recognizes that human understanding has limits. It calls these the veils of negative existence.
Veils of negative existence. I've heard that before, never fully grasped it.
Basically, there are always deeper truths beyond what we can, grasp at any given moment.
So it's about accepting that there's always more to learn, always more to uncover.
Exactly. It's a journey, not a destination.
And on this journey, within this framework, we have the 10 Sephiroth.
Ah, yes. The Sephiroth, these pulsating spheres of energy. Each one is a different aspect of creation.
They're not static, though, right? It's more like this cosmic river, everything flowing into each other.
A cosmic river. I like that. So where do you want to start?
Let's start at the beginning, shall we? Kether, the first Sephira.
The primordial point. Pure potential. Imagine a tiny seed, but inside is the blueprint for a mighty oak tree.
Wow.
That's Kether, the primal spark. Even the word pressure helps me visualize it. Everything condensed into a single point before anything, exists.
So Kether is the seed, the pure potential before anything even begins.
Exactly.
Then bam, like a bolt of lightning. Chekma.
The second Sephira, yes. Dynamic, explosive energy, the force that makes things happen.
If Kether is the blueprint, Chokma is that burst of energy that sets everything in motion, the builder.
Yes, the builder. But think about it. Raw energy, no direction.
Chaos.
Exactly. That's where Baina comes in, the third Sephira.
Baina. Form. Structure. The power to contain and shape.
Yes. It's like a sculptor taking clay, giving it form. Baina brings order to the raw energy of Chokma.
So we have these opposing forces, Chokma or Baina. Creation and limitation. It's like the universe is built on this tension.
It's a dance, a delicate balance. And that's what makes it so fascinating. So where do you think those opposing forces find their balance point?
Well, if we're talking opposing forces, we have to talk about Cheese and Gebra next, right?
Ah, yes. The benevolent king and the warrior king.
So Cheese linked to Jupiter is all about mercy, expansion, abundance. But then you have Gebra linked to Mars.
Strength, right. Sometimes severity, even.
Yeah. It's like having an angel on one shoulder.
And a warrior on the other.
Exactly. And we feel this in our own lives, don't we? That struggle between mercy and strength, that need for compassion, but also the need to stand our ground, set boundaries.
It's a daily dance. Every decision we make, you can feel that interplay.
So it's not about one being good, one being bad. They're both crucial, right?
Exactly. For our evolution. And for finding that point of balance,
Which brings us to Tiferet, the sixth Sephira.
Harmony, the perfect union of those seemingly opposite forces. Imagine the sun, right at its zenith, radiating warmth, life-giving energy.
It's the reconciliation of those inner forces, our own personal king and warrior, finding that path of, compassionate action.
Precisely. Tiferet is also about beauty, true, pure beauty.
Right, like a rose in full bloom.
Exactly. Or a piece of art that just takes your breath away. That's Tiferet. It's where we connect deeply with ourselves, and experience that interconnectedness of everything.
It's like glimpsing the divine plan in action. A moment of pure awe, pure inspiration. And then as we continue down the tree of life,
we arrive at Netzach, the seventh Sephira.
Netzach, vibrant energy, powerful emotions.
If Tifereth is a perfectly formed rose, Netzach is a wildflower meadow.
I like that.
Bursting with life, buzzing with energy, raw, untamed beauty. That's Netzach. It's where we tap into our passions, our desires.
Our drive.
Exactly, the creative life force.
But it's a bit of a wild ride, isn't it? Netzach reminds us that emotions are powerful and they need to be understood, not ignored.
You can't suppress them, that's for sure.
And that's where we need, what was it again?
Hood, the Aethocyphera.
Right, Hood. It brings that understanding, that direction, right?
Imagine a master strategist analyzing information, connecting the dots, creating a plan. That's Hood. Intellect, communication.
It's like HUD takes that raw energy of Netzach, that creative spark, and gives it shape, turns it into something real, something tangible.
It takes that inspiration and turns it into action.
It's one thing to have a brilliant idea, but it's another thing entirely to actually make it happen. And that's where this all leads, right? From the potential of Kether, the energy of Chokmah, the structuring force of Bina,
The balance of Tifereth.
the raw emotion of Netzach, the strategic mind of her.
Where does it all culminate?
Yes, sword, right?
Yes.
The foundation and the physical realm.
The final stages of creation, the spiritual becoming tangible.
Materializing into
Reality.
Yes, it is like that bridge between the world of forms, pure thought, and the world of action. It's a place of, well, purification, I guess, getting ready to cross that threshold into being. So, if the Sephiroth are stages in a creative process, Yesod is like that final rehearsal.
Before the big performance.
Exactly. On the stage of Malkuth. It's where we refine things, confront our doubts, and just prepare to share ourselves, really, with the world.
Beautifully put. And Malkuth is that stage, the physical world, where we play out our roles.
This is where the rubber meets the road. This is where that spiritual energy becomes grounded, takes action.
Where we see the tangible result of that creative process that began way back with that spark of potential in Kether. It's an amazing system, really.
It is, but it doesn't shy away from the shadows either, does it? I mean, there's that whole concept of
The Qliphoth.
right, the Qliphoth, the shadow side of the tree of life. It's one of those things that people misunderstand or, I don't know, get kind of spooked by.
Definitely.
But it sounds like the Kabbalah offers a, well, maybe a more nuanced perspective.
Absolutely.
Right.
See, the Qliphoth, they're not some kind of evil force out to get us. Think of them more like distortions, maybe.
Distortions.
Yeah. Like even light, if it's too intense or like focused the wrong way, it can burn, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's the same principle. They're not inherently evil, these Qliphoth. They're just these potentials for distortion, for imbalance.
Within each Sephira, you mean?
Exactly. Think of them as indicators, showing us where we're out of balance, maybe where we're misusing energy or even clinging to beliefs that no longer serve us. They're not something to fear, really. More like opportunities for growth.
Yeah, it's like, you know those heat maps where the red shows the most activity?
Right.
It's kind of like that. They're showing us those hot spots where we might be, like, I don't know, overheating, you know?
That's a good way to put it. It's not about pretending the darkness doesn't exist. It's about understanding it and learning how to, like, navigate it consciously.
Exactly. Which is something Dion Fortune talks about, right? How the Kabbalah is so well suited for Westerners.
Yeah, what was it they said again?
They recognize that, like, a lot of Westerners, we, you know, struggle with those Eastern traditions. The ones that are all about, like, renouncing the material world.
Exactly, detaching from everything. But the Kabbalah, it's different. It acknowledges both.
The spiritual and the material.
Yeah. It's saying they're not separate, but like two sides of the same coin, you know?
So it's not about renouncing the world, but rather transforming it.
Exactly.
Taking those mystical insights and, like, bringing them down to earth, into our relationships, our work, even the challenges we face.
Precisely. And Fortune believed that the Kabbalah, it's the perfect framework for that kind of integrated spiritual practice. It's a way to connect with the divine while still living in the world.
So instead of running away to a mountaintop, we create a mountaintop experience, but right here, right now.
Exactly.
In the midst of our everyday lives. I like that.
And it gives us the tools, right, to access those deeper states of awareness, those moments of, like, clarity, connection. We don't have to abandon our lives or, you know, our humanity to get there. It's about finding that balance, living with more purpose.
You know, it reminds me of those veils of negative existence we were talking about earlier. Yeah. It's like the Kabbalah is about, I don't know, slowly lifting those veils, right? Expanding our understanding, connecting us with those deeper truths that might have seemed inaccessible.
It's true. It's a process, this gradual unfolding, this growth and transformation. It happens over time. It's about peeling back those layers, the conditioning, the beliefs that stop us from really seeing clearly.
So it's a journey.
Always.
Not a destination.
And the tree of life, with its 10 sephirah. It's like a map.
Guiding us
as we
all the different dimensions of ourselves and the universe.
I like that.
Speaking of the tree of life and the sephirah,
yes,
I'd love to explore them in a bit more detail. We've touched on how each one represents a different aspect of creation, but
where should we
pick up?
Let's go back to Kether, shall we? The first sephirah, the crown. It all starts there.
The source of all manifestation.
Exactly. Fortune called it the rootless root, the breath of God. Pure potential, before form, before duality, even before the concept of existence itself as we know it.
That's a lot to wrap your head around.
It is. Our minds think in terms of form, of duality. There's this, there's that. But Kether, it's beyond all of that. It's that unity, the source from which everything emerges.
So how do we even begin to connect with that? With that sense of pure potential? Can we meditate on it?
That's a great place to start, actually. Meditation. Imagine just sitting in stillness, quiet mind. You connect with that space of pure awareness before thought arises, before you label anything.
Before the world gets in.
Exactly. That's it. That's that pure being. That's the energy of Kether.
Like accessing a whole other level of consciousness. Before thought, before form. Before the world as we know it even exists.
And it's always there within us.
Even though it seems so abstract.
It's the spark of the divine that animates our being, that source of creativity, the potential within each of us.
So Kether's both the beginning and, in a way, the end.
You could say that. The alpha and the omega.
It's that eternal present moment where all those possibilities exist. Wow. Okay. And from that boundless potential,
we move to Chokmah.
Second Sephirah. If Kether is the seed, then Chokmah is that burst of energy that propels it forward.
Exactly. Chokmah is dynamic force, that first action, the word of God.
Setting the universe in motion.
It's that masculine principle driving everything forward.
The Big Bang.
Yes, the initial explosion of energy that created everything.
So Chokmah is that impulse to create.
The drive behind all action, but it's important to remember, Chokmah in its purest form, it's beyond form.
Okay, so pure energy, pure potential, waiting to be...
Shaped.
Yeah, shaped, directed, what's the word?
Molded, maybe? Think of a river, right at its source, this powerful torrent of water cascading down a mountain, untamed power. That's Chokmah.
I'm starting to get a feel for it.
Yeah.
For how does that raw dynamic force become something tangible?
That's where our friend Bina comes in, the third Sephirah. Remember her?
The Great Mother.
Yes. The womb of creation. She's the principle of form, of limitation.
Right. Chokmah is that lightning strike, the spark of inspiration. But Bina...
is that fertile ground that receives it?
Yes. Allowing it to take root.
See? You've got it. And it's interesting, isn't it? We often think of limitations as a bad thing.
Right, like something holding us back.
But Bina teaches us that boundaries are necessary for creation itself.
Right.
Without form, without structure, that energy just dissipates.
It's like they say, you can't have a symphony without silence.
I love that.
Those spaces between the notes, they're just as important as the notes themselves.
Absolutely. It allows us to appreciate it all, the silence, the sound. And just like that musical analogy, Bina and Chokmah, those limitations, they let us appreciate the boundless creativity even more.
It's fascinating how these seemingly opposing forces, Chokmah and Bina, they work together.
They create this beautiful dance.
To create the world.
And that's what the Kabbalah is all about, isn't it? It's not about choosing sides, but finding that balance.
That dynamic integration of these seemingly opposing forces.
Yeah.
Which brings us to Cheese and Gibra. Mercy and strength.
Another polarity, one that we feel very deeply.
Oh, yeah. In our everyday lives all the time. So Cheese is, remind me again.
Cheese is the benevolent king, the fourth Sephirah. Abundance, compassion, unconditional love, Jupiter.
Like a parent showering their child with love.
Exact.
But even too much of a good thing, right? Like even too much love.
Can create imbalance.
Yeah.
And that's where Gebra steps in. The fifth Sephirah, Mars, the warrior king.
Right. Setting boundaries, fighting for what's right.
Strength, courage, discipline.
So it's about, like, standing up for yourself.
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes love requires us to be strong, to say no.
To let go.
Even if it's painful. Think about a surgeon.
Having to do a difficult operation.
Yes. It's an act of love to save a patient's life, but it requires such strength and a willingness to do what needs to be done, even if it's hard.
It's like that saying sometimes, real love isn't about being nice. It's about
Doing what needs to be done.
exactly.
And again, we see that same theme here. Cheesed, Gebra. Not opposites, but complementary. Two sides of the same coin.
Two essential ingredients in the recipe of life. We need both to navigate the world, to create a meaningful life.
And where do you think these two seemingly opposing forces, Cheesed and Gebra,
Find their balance.
yes,
Sephareth.
the sixth Sephira, the heart of the tree of life?
Kiphareth, the sun. We talked about it earlier. Beauty, harmony. It's like this perfectly balanced scale.
Mercy and strength, compassion and discipline.
Finding that sweet spot between being too passive or too aggressive, too giving or too withholding.
It's about integration, embracing all parts of ourselves, light and shadow.
Becoming whole.
Yes.
So Tiferet is like this crucial point. It's like that heart center
Let's see that.
where we access our truth
Yeah.
and connect with that divine spark.
And from this place of balance, of integration in Tifereth, we can then move down the tree of life
We continue our descent,
to explore those lower Sephiroth.
each one with its own.
Waste insights.
Should we keep going?
Let's Netzach, the seventh Sephira, awaits.
Okay, Netzach. Now this one sounds interesting.
It is. Netzach is associated with Venus, you see.
Venus, the planet of love, right?
Yeah.
And beauty.pleasure.
Yes. It's all about emotions, creativity, that life force that runs through everything. Think. A lush garden in full bloom.
A symphony of colors and scents.
Exactly, a celebration of the senses. But remember, duality.
Right, light and shadow, pleasure and pain.
Netzach is where we learn to embrace it all, integrate those emotions, find our balance.
So it's not just about indulging in pleasure for the sake of it, but finding a healthy relationship with our emotions.
All of them.
The light and the shadow. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
But how would we do that? Where do we even begin?
That's where Hod comes in, the eighth Sephira. Remember him, our master strategist.
Right. He brings in the logic, the intellect.
If Netzach is all raw emotion, creative fire, Hod is the architect, I guess you could say.
He brings structure.
Yes, he channels that energy into something.
Tangible.
Exactly. Hod sees the big picture and then makes a plan.
It's that crucial balance, right? Passion and intellect working together.
Netzach provides the inspiration, the fuel for the fire, and Hod,
He provides the structure, the focus.
the container, to direct that fire, make something incredible.
When those two are aligned, amazing things can happen.
Without a doubt.
Okay, so from the potential of Kether, the dynamic forces of creation, mercy, and strength. Now, passion and intellect. Where do we go from here?
Let's take a trip to Yesod, shall we? The ninth Sephira.
Yesod, the foundation.
It's a realm of subtle energies. The subconscious mind, the astral plane. Imagine a bridge connecting the world of forms, pure thought, to the world of action. That's Yesod.
A bridge, okay. So not quite the physical world yet, but we're getting closer.
You got it. It's where those refined energies from the upper Sephiroth, they get processed, prepared for their grand debut in the material world.
It's like where dreams are made.
In a way, yes. And where your intuition speaks to you, the magic starts to get real, you know?
But like any good testing ground,
There are challenges.
we come face to face with ourselves, the good, the bad, and
Yeah.
well, everything in between.
It can be a difficult place, but also so powerful, full of potential.
So how do we make it through? How do we use that power without getting, lost in it all?
Purification. That's the key. Yesod is all about cleansing, letting go of those limiting beliefs, those negative emotions, those patterns that keep us stuck.
Like a spiritual deep clean.
Exactly. It's like hitting the reset button.
Oh.
And there are tools for that. Meditation, dream work, connecting with nature. All of that helps.
It's like we're clearing out those clogged pipes, letting the energy flow.
And preparing for the final stage of manifestation in Malkuth.
Which brings us to the 10th and final Sephira,
Malkuth, the physical world,
the kingdom.
the culmination of the journey, where we see it all come together.
In concrete form. This is where the rubber meets the road, right?
In a way, yes. It's where we see the results of our thoughts, our feelings, our actions.
It's about creation, bringing those dreams into reality. And just like all the other Sephiroth, Malkuth has its own unique energy, its own lessons. What can we learn from this final stage?
It's about appreciating the physical world, finding the joy in those simple things, using your creativity to make a positive impact.
Grounding those spiritual insights in action.
Exactly.
It's about living a life of purpose.
Malkuth reminds us that spirituality, it's not about escaping the world, but transforming it, bringing heaven down to earth.
How do we do that? How do we bring heaven down to earth?
It's about living with awareness, compassion, integrity, aligning your actions with your values, using your gifts to serve others, and never forgetting that we're all connected.
It's like Malkuth is both an ending and a beginning.
How so?
Well, it's the end of this journey down the tree of life, but it's the beginning of a new journey, one where we get to consciously create. We're not just living, we're expressing the divine.
That's beautifully put, but we have to remember, Malkuth, it has its challenges too.
What do you mean?
Well, it's so easy to get caught up in the material world, to chase pleasure, power, possessions, all those distractions.
So how do we stay grounded in our spiritual practice in the middle of all that?
That's where the lessons of the whole tree of life come into play, cultivating those qualities. Wisdom, strength, beauty, compassion, creativity.
All of it.
It gives us the inner resources we need to navigate Malkuth, to make the right choices.
So it always comes back to balance.
Always.
Finding that middle ground, that integration, not this or that, but...
It's about understanding that true fulfillment comes from aligning ourselves with something bigger, expressing our gifts, using our creativity to make a difference.
And remembering that we're not separate from the divine, but rather...
Just expressions of it.
Here to learn, to grow, to create. I like that. It's like we each have our own little part to play, right? In this big cosmic play. It's not a normal play, is it? It's more like we're making it up as we go along.
And we're not just the actors. We're the writers, the directors.
Stagehands even.
Exactly. We're creating the play itself, you see, with our thoughts, our feelings, our actions. Which brings us to an important question, I think.
What's that?
If we are creating this, all of this, as we go along, how do we play our parts well? Skillfully, consciously even? How do we actually use this framework, this tree of life with all its wisdom? How do we make it real in our lives?
Right, because it's easy to get caught up in the theory, isn't it?
Oh, definitely.
But at some point, we have to bridge that gap between like intellectual understanding and actually putting it into practice.
And that's the beauty of the Kabbalah, you see. It's a practical system. It's not just about having this knowledge in your head, but embodying it.
Making it a part of you.
Exactly.
So how do we do that? How do we take it from page to, well, real life?
Correspondences.
Correspondences. Okay, now you're speaking my language. I love a good correspondence chart. But remind me how those work again.
Well, remember we talked about how each sephira has its own unique energy and its own symbolism? Well, the Kabbalah, it gives us this like detailed system of correspondences to help us connect with those energies directly.
Okay, I think I kind of get it, but give me an example, something concrete.
Okay, let's take Qabala, remember, our warrior king.
Strength, boundaries, doing what needs to be done.
Exactly. Now, the Kabbalah associates Qabala with the color red, the planet Mars, the image of a sword.
Okay, I'm with you.
So by meditating on those symbols, right, or even just surrounding yourself with them,
You start to resonate with that energy.
Precisely, like attracts, like, it's like having a whole toolbox.
Yeah.
To access different parts of yourself.
I like that. It's like the Kabbalah is like a language to communicate with the universe and with those deeper parts of ourselves.
And like any language, the more you practice, the more fluent you become.
Okay, so where do we begin? If someone's listening to this right now, what's one thing they could do today to start applying all this?
I would say start by choosing one sephira, just one, whose energy you'd like to bring into your life. Think about what you need. Maybe you need more focus, more discipline.
So work with HUD.
Exactly. Or maybe you need inspiration, a creative boost.
What's that?
You got it. It's like choosing the right vitamin, for whatever your soul needs.
So we pick our sephira, and then what?
Learn about it. Really dive into those correspondences, the colors, the planets, the symbols, the archangels, and then see how those show up in your life, in your thoughts, your feelings.
It's about developing that awareness.
And that's when the magic really starts to happen.
This has been incredible. We've journeyed from that unmanifested potential of Kether.
Through all those dynamic forces of creation.
Mercy and strength, passion and intellect, refining ourselves in Yesod, and finally, grounding it all.
In the here and now.
In Malkuth. It's amazing because the Kabbalah, it doesn't see those things as separate, does it? Spirit, matter, it's all one big.
Dance.
Exactly. And we're all part of it, which is a pretty powerful thing to remember.
It changes how you look at everything.
It does. We're not just random beings in a random universe. We're all connected, and we each have a part to play in this unfolding.
And by understanding the wisdom of the Kabbalah,
we can play our parts better,
more consciously,
with greater awareness, and maybe even a little more joy.
Now, wouldn't that be something?
So as you head back out into the world, dear listener, we leave you with this. What spark of potential are you ready to bring to life? What will your symphony sound like?